Hey friends, and welcome back to this solo episode of the Show Up season here on the Mary Marantz Show, a season where we remind you that we never asked you to be perfect, we just asked you to show up. So this week, fans of the show Shrinking can rejoice because they are back with a brand new season 3 of the show. And if you are not familiar with this show, A, you are missing out, and B, it was made by the same people who did Ted Lasso, so need I say more? Put this on your watch list, friends, if you've not checked it out yet. So in one of the first episodes of this new season, which the whole show is really about an office of therapists, 2 of which are played by Harrison Ford and Jason Segel, who are also personally navigating incredibly hard things in their own personal lives. Jason Segel's character's wife, for example, has just passed away. And the show then shows them as being very human, all while simultaneously showing up for other humans. So in one of those very first episodes, we see Harrison Ford's character, Paul, sitting down with a client, and he starts telling him about something he calls the field, defining it as a universal force that directs people to where they are supposed to be and highlights what they still need to work on most. The field. Side note, I really wanted it to be called the Force, or for the character he was talking to make a Han Solo joke, but then again, maybe I also applaud them for resisting the temptation to veer into the expected, which is something I talk a lot about in the writing prompts when it comes to good storytelling. Here's another side note for you before we go on, talking about Harrison Ford, and in honor of when this episode airs, the next day, tomorrow, will be Valentine's Day. And if we were playing 2 truths and a lie right now, one of my go-to truths that I always use that sounds like it couldn't possibly be true is that Justin and I once spent a Valentine's Day with Harrison Ford. So what happened is that we had been on a cross-country tour doing our workshops, from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, and we had timed it so that we would end up in Jackson Hole and have a day off for Valentine's Day. Earlier in the day, we had gone to the spa and had a really amazing, relaxing time. And then we realized we hadn't found a place to have dinner yet. And so we popped into a few places, and Justin found the first one we found with white linen tablecloths in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And so he got, the only thing they had left was the early bird 5 o'clock seating. And we said, that's perfect. We're so, wiped out from the spa. We're going to want to fall asleep early anyway. And so we go and we have our 5 o'clock seating. We have an incredible meal. Some really, I remember very delicious broccoli, pasta, sausage dish that was amazing. And it was so good that even the little bit I had left over, I knew I wanted to take back to the hotel. And so I had my little to-go container, and we're working our way out of the restaurant to make room for the 7 o'clock seating people. And it's one of these restaurants with very narrow aisles, lots of 2-person tables very close together. And so, making my way in between people, trying not to bump into anybody. Justin's saying something funny behind me, and I turn back to look at him. And when I turn back around, I am face to face, nearly smack dab, running into this woman that I recognized. I'm thinking to myself, I know you from somewhere. Why do I know you? And I'm looking, at all of her features and details, trying to place where I know her. And then I sort of, landed on the culmination of these details that make up an entire face. And I realize Callista Flockhart. And then my brain starts connecting the dots. Callista Flockhart, Jackson Hole, Valentine's Day. She is probably here with, and just as I'm, connecting all these dots and the Harrison Ford is ticker taping through my brain, I look up and here's Harrison Ford looking like an absolute cowboy in a chambray shirt and some jeans and some boots, leaning against the counter, waiting to be seated with a little earring in his ear. And he's watching me have this epiphany moment, connect all these dots. And when I do, and I look up at him, as soon as we make eye contact, he gives me one of these, a little wink and a nod, just having the best time watching me realize what's happening. And so Justin goes to get my coat from the coat check, and Harrison Ford is dropping off Callista's coat. They stand shoulder to shoulder, and then they get escorted off to some private VIP area. And that's the end of our double date with Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart. But for just about 5 seconds, we spent Valentine's Day with Harrison Ford, which has nothing to do with anything other than I love working that story into conversation as often as I can. So back to Harrison Ford in Shrinking. His character is talking about what he calls the field. This universal force that keeps reminding us what we need to work on most, or put another way, we repeat the lesson until it is learned. This was one of the central themes in my third book, Underestimated, which came out last year. And honestly, my frustration with it, that we repeat the lesson until it is learned, only we never seem to learn it, became one of the biggest reasons I wrote this book in the first place, right? It talks in that book about this idea of like, for some of us, it just takes a little bit longer. For the life of us, we can't seem to understand why other people can just execute, implement, achieve. Meanwhile, we're over here pushing the boulder up the mountain over and over and over again. And just as we get to our breakthrough moment, just as we are within arm's length reach of everything we ever wanted, we blink. We lose our grip and we lose our way, and the boulder rolls all the way back down the mountain. We are like this bad geometry proof gone awry, where we associate chaos is familiar, and familiar equals comfortable, and comfortable equals safe. Therefore, chaos must equal safe. We continue to return to these patterns. We repeat the lesson until it is learned, only we never seem to learn it. In Underestimated, I even share a passage from Beatrice Chestnut where she talks about how Enneagram 4s in particular, which is what I am, will unintentionally thwart themselves, will work against their own best interests because they need to show the world that they've struggled for it in order to feel like they can ever deserve it. We repeat the lesson until it is learned, only we never seem to learn it. So this new season of Shrinking also, of course, comes back as we are smack dab in the middle of the Winter 2026 Olympics. And I don't know about you, but for about 2 weeks every 4 years, figure skating becomes my entire personality. If you don't already have the word twizzle in your vocabulary yet, you are truly missing out. And fun fact, Justin and I have been eating Twizzlers while watching the Twizzles, and it takes it to a whole new level. Chef's kiss, highly recommend. But I remember for having a very lifelong love affair with the Winter Olympics and figure skating in particular. 1992 with Kristi Yamaguchi. I hung, of course, like the rest of the world, on every word of the drama unfolding in 1994 with Tanya and Nancy and Oksana. In 1998's Showdown with Tara Lipinski and Michelle Kwan. And if I am being totally honest with you, just between us friends, became temporarily Canadian, along with most of the rest of the world, in 2018 when I absolutely fell in love with Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer. It's the first time I learned that phrase, shipped, where you just really want two people to get together. If you haven't seen it yet, just go ahead and pause this right now and go watch their Moulin Rouge performance, their free dance skates, just total head exploding emoji. I'll wait. Go check it out. Come back when you're ready. So this year, as Justin and I have been watching, there have been so many pretty flawless performances by all of Team USA, by all of the teams really who were there. They have practiced for this for some of them for 20 plus years. So of course, perfection is the goal. And we've even seen with Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, that probably just made a few of you get a little hot around the collar. There was a lot of drama in the ice dancing competition, especially the individual ones that just happened. But we saw Madison Chalk get a huge penalty just from going from like her little blade on the ice went boop, right from the edge to being flat for like a nanosecond. And it was a huge deal because that's how perfect they are demanded to be and how nitpicky you start to be judged when you are playing at that level. But something I noticed in myself is that this year, call it age, call it wisdom, call it writing an entire book about this. This year, I was far less mesmerized by the perfect performances, as incredible as those were to watch, as I was with watching the stumbles. And in no case was that more true than in the pair skating. Not to be confused with ice dancing. This is two people still doing things like triple lutzes and throw jumps. If you're a fan of the 1990s cult classic, The Cutting Edge, just think the Pamchenko twist, and that's pretty much it, which, fun fact, was parodied in 2007's Blades of Glory, where the Pamchenko twist-esque move actually cuts someone's head off. So that's the level of difficulty we're talking about here. I'm pretty sure that is an accurate documentary portrayal of pair skating. Anyway, my point is it's extra hard to nail the landing when there are now two humans involved. And as we know, to human is to err. And as it turns out this year, the pair skating event was actually the weakest event for Team USA. It was the one where they weren't really expecting to medal, but they did really need them to come through in order for the team competition, for them as a team to have enough points to win team gold. So that's, there are individual events like women's single, men's single, pairs, and ice dancing. And then they also go through them all again, actually even before the individual events, to be scored as a team. It's very confusing, but just know that most Olympians end up doing their program twice, once as a team and once individually. As I was watching the pairs short program this year, I started to realize that hardly any of the teams that competed in the pairs program didn't fall at least once, which is kind of surprising at the Olympic level, right? That there were hardly any of them that didn't have at least one stumble. And some of them were, to be honest with you, some really hard belly flops on this very hard surface that is ice that were pretty brutal to watch. In fact, Justin found a video on Instagram of the all-time hardest falls in pairs skating and ice dancing, and we're talking falling on their teeth, getting kicked in the head, like just incredibly brutal falls, like I said. So these women are being flung through the air, and what the commentators were saying is that so much of it depends on the throw, on the man actually throwing them through the air, that the women don't really have a lot of choice or control about how it's going to go once they leave their partner's hands. But what my brain zeroed in on the most was not how much they were falling, although a fall that hard is always shocking to see. It's how fast the women were able to get back up. And not fast in this frenzied, panicked, oh, I just messed up at the Olympics and in front of the entire world watching and I'm freaking out and I just got to get back up as fast as I can. Or as Lewis Carroll put it in Alice in Wonderland, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. It was not that kind of energy. Instead, it was fast, but in this measured, calm, step by step by step, put my foot up, twist this foot around, give a spin, and I'm right back on track, focused, strategic way that got them right back in step with where they were always supposed to be. It was an instant, methodical course correction that got them back on track and showed me that they had done this a million times before. And that's when this epiphany moment hit me like a jolt. See, they were able to get back up that fast after falling because they had been practicing falling down like that for years leading up to this moment. Oh, don't miss this. This is not some inspirational poster on your wall. Practice falling down and get back up. There's something really weighty here for us if we don't let this zip right by us. So often when we're thinking about the hours and the days and the weeks and the months and the years that go into an Olympian getting their 90-second shot on the big stage, we think about them practicing winning. We think about them practicing landing the jumps, visualizing the win, finessing the details until it looks easy. As a fun side note, in a totally unplanned moment in terms of this solo episode, I actually ended up spontaneously riffing with Tanner Olson in next week's episode about how the best riders are like the best figure skaters. The greats are so ingrained in the details, so absolutely fluid in the execution that they make it look deceptively simple, deceptively easy. They make it so the average person watching or reading at home can think to themselves for even just 1 second, I could do that, because of how well the greats stick the landing. But it turns out that the greats also know how to stick the falls. See, we imagine these Olympian figure skaters in the practice rink, and in our heads, there is some 3-minute movie montage that helps us skip to the good part, where in the beginning they're falling over and over, but by the end, they are sticking it every time. And we think that's what's giving them the confidence to go out there and compete at that level. That they've gotten so good, they've been doing it so long, that they don't even remember the last time they fell down. But the truth is, one of the fun things the Olympics has now, where it needs to be all 24 programming all the time, is that you can actually tune in and watch them practicing. Not the warm-ups right before the actual event, but days before the event where they're just doing actual real practices in regular workout clothes. There's an actual whole streaming channel devoted to this on Peacock. And you know what? What I noticed is that they are falling and stumbling right up to the very end. 2 days before their big moment on the stage and sometimes in the warm-ups where everybody's watching. See, that is the lie that we hold on to. We think that if you can just get good enough, if you can just be perfect enough, you will never once fall on your face again. But that is an illusion. It's false. The truth is the greats practice over and over until it is all muscle memory. That includes the falls, or as another one of the greats, this time a great actor, not a great figure skater, as Denzel Washington once put it, without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. So keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, he says, but get up 8. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. I'm just going to say that one again because I feel like it's for somebody right now. He says ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship ever could be. So keep moving, he says, keep growing, keep learning. I'll see you at work. And a huge part of that fall down 7 times, get up 8 mentality is building up the muscle memory so that when you fall, not if you fall, you already know these are the steps you take without even thinking about it that get you up and back on track the fastest. And most of all, that give you the muscle memory to keep going no matter what setback has just happened. See, when you're watching these Olympic skaters, they never just fall and then, throw their hands up and skate off the ice. They are trained from day one to see it through no matter what happens, to fight for everything else they can in that program, no matter how recently they've just fallen. Most people get interested in the muscle memory of winning, to do it flawlessly and never once mess up. Me, lately I've gotten far more interested in the muscle memory of falling and that ingrained automatic choice to get back up, dust yourself off, and just keep going. Because to them, there is no other choice. It was never even a consideration. This now brings me full circle back to that show, Shrinking. The first episode of this new 3rd season kicks off with a guest appearance from Michael J. Fox because in the show, Harrison Ford's character, Paul, is battling a Parkinson's diagnosis. And supposedly in real life, Michael J. Fox phoned him up and was like, seriously? How are you going to have a show about Parkinson's and not have me on? So the episode kicks off with Harrison and Michael J. Fox playing a character named Jerry, sitting in a waiting room and talking about all of their symptoms. At one point, Michael J. Fox's character asks, hey, how's your balance? And Harrison Ford says, oh, not bad. Woof, the stupid exercises help. To which Fox says, me? I fall down at least 3 times a day. I'm thinking about taking up stunt work. And he pauses, but then he goes on to say, but you know what? I'm still here. Here is someone who is falling down daily and every single day practices getting back up. Because to him, there is no other choice. It was never even a consideration. There are so many of us right now who are terrified of trying something new and falling down even once. When the truth is, to become truly great at anything, you not only have to be okay with the falling, you not only have to practice the falling over and over again, you have to absolutely burn it into your brain and every fiber of your muscle memory, what it feels like to fall and without even thinking about it, without even hesitating for a second, to automatically begin the steps to get back up and get right back in line with where it was you were always going. Later in that Shrinking episode, Paul says to his mentee and fellow psychiatrist, fellow therapist, Jimmy, played by Jason Segel, he says, I gotta face it. I can either be self-pitying or I can suck the marrow out of what's left of this amazing life. So yes, we repeat the lesson until it is learned, only we never seem to learn it. But now I think we may have gotten it really wrong about why that is. See, I don't think that's just life trying to punish us, just having fun messing with us. I now think it's about life showing us how to get back up, this time better, each time we fall down. You can spend your whole life trying to get it perfect the very first time and never once stumbling. You can spend your whole life avoiding the risk of falling at every cost. But the punishment lies in the prescription. You can spend your whole life avoiding the risk of falling at every cost. But the trade-off is you'll spend your whole life that way. Me, I'd rather take a wink and a nod from Harrison Ford and suck every ounce of marrow out of what is left of this amazing life. And I hope you do too. Until next time, friends, this is the Mary Marantz Show, and welcome to your Show Up season.